Hi guys, and welcome to Escape Wheel Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Boderry Voyager version 2. I received this watch for free from the official Boderry.com website. You guys should know the deal by now. It's not going to sway my review one way or the other. You're always going to get my honest opinion on these watches on this channel. And if by the end of this review you want to pick one of these up, as always, there will be a link down in the video description. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that. That takes you directly to the Boderry website. And then you can check out all the options for this thing. So the retail price for this thing on the website is about $178, but they never sell for that much. Currently, they're on sale for $132 US. That's before any taxes, sales, coupons, VAT, anything like that. I have seen these go for somewhere in the $80 range. I believe that was with a nylon strap. So this bracelet does add a pretty decent chunk of money to the watch. So I'm going to let you guys decide whether you think it's worth it on this or not. But yeah, I have seen these go for fairly cheap on the sales, so just keep that in mind when you're shopping. The watch comes in a handful of different options, colorways, configurations, as you can see here. Keep in mind that some of the colors do come with a day and date complication, while others just have the date complication. I'm not really sure why they did that, but that is an option for you, so just also keep that in mind as well. The watch case is made of grade 2 titanium. You have a sapphire crystal, a screw down crown, a screw down case back, 100 meters of claimed water resistance, and the watch, depending on which color you get, is powered by either the Seiko NH35 or Seiko NH36 automatic movement. So I think Boderry's done a really excellent job here. If you aren't aware, this is their, the version 2, like I keep on saying. Version 1 had the Miyota 8215, and that caused the second hand to really stutter. I think they said that the weight of the second hand was just too much for that movement, and it really caused like just an uneasy stuttering of that second hand. Everyone that had the watch complained about it. Boderry listened. They put in the NH36, NH35, and I think they've made almost a perfect field watch. So I say we get right into this full review, but before we do a quick wrist check today. Wearing the new Watch Dives and San Martin SN0113, I believe it is. Picked this one up a few days ago. I did throw a different clasp on it because it comes with the butterfly clasp. This is off of the San Martin Speedy 57. Not sure any of their other clasps would fit this watch, so thankfully I had this one around and I'm able to get a good fit. But yeah, this thing is absolutely stunning, and as long as they say they are going to restock this thing, I will be reviewing it very soon. And before we get into the review, I forgot to mention this. This is the packaging that it comes in. It's almost like this container. There's the two spare links. But yeah, it's a really interesting packaging. Not really sure why they decided to go with this, but it's functional, kept the watch safe. But yeah, just a unique packaging. It's like that weird container, almost like a shipping container with Boderry on the side there. Yeah, just thought I would mention that before we get into this review. Alright, so let's get into the dimensions. The case diameter, about 40 millimeters. Case thickness of 11.5 millimeters. 22 millimeter lug width. Lug to lug of 49.1 millimeters. On the supplied bracelet, we got an overall length of 54.3 millimeters. And sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist with 2 links removed. It weighs bang on 108 grams. So obviously the big thing with titanium, this is a full metal bracelet as well, and it weighs 108 grams. Usually a watch in this size will be pretty close to 150 grams. So, I mean, this thing is just very lightweight, very comfortable on wrist. They did a really nice job keeping it nice and slim. This is one of the slimmest NH35 movements I've seen, at 11.5 millimeters. You can also see they have a nice curve down to the lugs as well. So this thing wears pretty darn awesome. I also have a couple thoughts on the lug width, which I will share with you outside. So let's go outside right now and throw this on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist. And as you can see, for me, I can pull it off. But I think anyone with smaller wrists, they're going to struggle to pull this thing off on the bracelet at least. Yeah, those male end links, they do protrude quite a bit, and you can see I really feel that 22 millimeter lugs was a mistake on this one. I think 20 millimeters would look a lot better. It just seems very broad on this, so that's really my only complaint with it. Otherwise, it's super lightweight, it's super comfortable. You can see the down the wrist shot here, just that the case curvature works really nicely to keep this looking nice and flat, as you can see there. It's like I said, it's just super comfortable on wrist, and comfort wise, I've got zero complaints with it. Bracelet, I also really don't have many complaints with it. It's not a great bracelet, but It's very comfortable. So yeah, I think overall it's pretty satisfying. And popping out into some direct sunlight here, you can see lots of texture on the dial there. It does not have any AR coating, so you can see, I mean, it just gets washed out pretty easily, but it is a flat crystal, so it's not horrible, and there's plenty of contrast on the dial. But yeah, I say we go throw this on some straps, and we will get back to this review. And here we are on a brown leather strap, just a simple 2-stitch strap. This is from St. Martin. Really, really comfortable, lightweight, looks good, feels good. I got no major complaints with how this looks. You will notice there's quite a gap between the case and the strap there. They do have 2 separate lug holes on this watch, but they sit like right on top of each other. So they could have definitely inset that second strap hole and just closed up that gap, because that just doesn't look great in my opinion. And here we are on just a simple black rubber strap, got a little bit of texture to it. Again, you can see that gap there. It doesn't look so bad on this one, but it was definitely an issue on the last one. I think they could still easily close that up just a little bit. I'll show you guys the strap holes here in just a second, but yeah, it doesn't look too bad on this. So there's the 2 lug holes that I was talking about. That one on the top, they could definitely just bring that in closer to the case, maybe just a millimeter, or maybe 2 millimeters, and it would make it a lot better, in my opinion. That bottom hole there, that is for the pass-through straps. I still think either way, there's plenty of space for a pass-through strap, even on that top hole there. So they could have just moved that in a little bit closer and made it look a little bit nicer on some straps, in my opinion. Speaking of pass-through straps, though, I'm going to go throw it on some right now. And here we are on an orange silicone single pass strap. So 1 layer underneath the watch, and it is a really thin layer, so it still wears really, really nicely. So you can see the lug holes. This is using the bottom lug hole, so it just, I mean, I think it actually looks a little weird being down so low. It is super comfortable. It's going to fit pretty much any strap you can find, and because there's tons of space. But yeah, that's how that one looks. I'm going to go throw it on one more, and we'll get back to this review. Alright, and lastly, here we are on just a black nylon strap, 2 layers underneath the watch there, and you can still see it does sit up a little bit, but it's still that case curvature and placement of those lug holes makes it a very comfortable wearing experience, and I don't think it looks too bulky on wrist or anything either. So I am overall pretty satisfied with that. What do you guys think about that one? Alright, let's go back inside and let's finish up this review. So let's talk about the case finishing on this thing. And the case itself, really a very simple case finishing. It is fully bead blasted, as you kind of expect from a budget titanium watch. They usually don't brush these things at all. So you have a bead blasted bezel here. It is a 2-piece bezel. As you can see, there's a little seam right there. You've got your crown at the 3.8 position, I think that is. It is signed nicely there. Again, fully bead blasted. You have integrated crown guards here. It keeps the crown guarded pretty nicely. This crown, I actually like this crown. I don't know why I like it so much, but it's just very soft, but plenty of grip, easy to get your fingers on. Yeah, I've got no issues with the crown itself. You can see the lugs on this thing are kind of reminiscent of Omega. So you have this big chamfer that kind of starts at the lug tip here, gets a little narrower, kind of swoops all the way down and around. Gives a really cool look to it. Again, you get really nice turn down to those lugs as well. You saw how nicely this thing wore on my wrist. So I'm really happy with the case shape on this thing, and this bottom edge of the case, it's always been rounded off nicely, and it's not sharp at all. Again, it's all about comfort with this thing, so they did a really good job with that. And then flipping it to the case back here, you kind of have a steering wheel kind of etched into the case back. Simple notches to get a tool into, which I'm a big fan of. And then you got your spec sheet around the outside. This is done really nicely. It's super soft, not sharp at all. I mean, it's comfort. Again, comfort. Yeah, really satisfied with the case on this thing. It's great. I absolutely love this case. All right, let's talk about the crystal on this thing. Test it for sapphire. It is positive for sapphire. It is a dead flat piece of sapphire crystal. I don't see any AR coating on it at all. It could definitely use it. This dial is contrasty enough that, I don't ever have a trouble reading the time on this thing, but I would love to see some AR coating on it as well. But yeah, it is what it is. One interesting thing is you can see here that the crystal actually sits down below the bezel. It's really kind of unique. I'm going to see if I can See, you can see right there, it doesn't touch the diamond selector there. So yeah, it's really interesting. So there is a lip that protects the crystal as well. So you should be able to bang this thing around pretty hard and not knock that crystal out or crack it or anything like that. So it's kind of nice that they did protect it. I really wish they would have put on a anti-reflective coating though. All right, zooming in, we're going to talk about the dial on this thing. So this is the volcano gray or volcanic gray color that they have. They do have this in black and white and salmon and a couple different Lume colors as well. So yeah, they've got a lot of different options. And like I mentioned earlier, this one does come with the day and the date. Other ones just come with the date. So just keep that in mind while you're shopping. But I think it's a pretty busy dial, but also kind of simple all at the same time. You have your hour numerals inset on the inside, bigger ones at 12, 3, 6, and 9. Then you've got your minute track printed around the outside, sub-second markings as well. Everything is done really nice. You can see they do have a little bit of depth to them as well. So that's kind of nice to see. The texture on this is really, really cool. I do like the texture on it. I think it looks excellent. Everything is printed nice and crisp. I see no issues with the printing on it. The font I think they chose. Not a big fan of this 6 and this 9. I don't know. There's something about the little loop on those numbers. Just throws me off a little bit. But other than that, I do like the print that they chose. I like how it's kind of raised up like that. It's easy to read the time on this thing every time. I don't like a date down here. If they do this, I mean, that's just a big mark on a otherwise nicely done dial. They need to color match that. I don't mind it being here at the 4 o'clock position, but they need to color match it. It would blend in a lot nicer. It does look really good on the white version. I'll say that. Other than that, though, you got your Boderry Voyager text there at the 9 o'clock, so kind of balances it out a little bit. But a unique dial layout, I think, as far as the branding and the date goes. Something you don't usually see. Getting up real close, we'll take a look at the handset. It's kind of this matte white finish on it. Really nice looking. It contrasts beautifully with the dial, in my opinion. I think it looks great. I believe the white dial uses black, so really contrasty. Very happy with that. It does have that kind of faux patina lume. It doesn't really match the dial color very well. I don't know if they're using different compounds or what, but yeah, I don't think it looks bad, but it is something that I have noticed. You've got kind of these syringe hands here, maybe a little bit short on these hands. Even the second hand reaches right out to the minute track. I like that. And I do like that it has a double, it has this loomed counterbalance here, and then it also has the loomed lollipop. So it's kind of a funny effect when I get it under UV light and get it glowing. So yeah, really a nice handset, maybe a little bit undersized in my opinion, but I do like it. I like how contrasty it is against the dial. So let's talk about the lume on this thing. So I'm going to pop up a lume shot here. You can see the hands, they do hang on better than the dial, but the lume on this watch is not great. That's kind of the one big downfall of the watch is the lume. If they put in a little bit better lume, I think this will be a much more compelling field watch. At this rate, I can't depend on this watch to tell the time in the middle of the night. So it's not something that I'm going to bring camping with me, which is usually what I rely on my watches during camping to read the time in the middle of the night. So sadly, I won't be taking this one camping. But yeah, the lume is there. It's just not great. All right, so let's talk about the movement in this thing. So the movement inside is either the Seiko NH35 or NH36, depending on the colorway. NH36 is the one with the day and date complication. So the movement, it's fine. It hacks, hand winds, does everything you need it to do. About 40 hours of power reserve, 21,600 beats per hour, so 6 ticks of the second hand every second. It has a quick set date, and again, it does everything you need it to. Here's how this one is running here. So it's running about 8 seconds a day, and with just a little bit of a beat error, so not too bad, about what I expected from a watch like this. It is operated by this 4 o'clock-ish screw down crown. Again, good size crown. It's really nice and soft and easy to grip onto. Really smooth screw in, screw out action. You can see there's the gasket there. First position is your hand winding. Second position is your day and your date. So you roll it backwards, that changes the date. You roll it forward, that changes the day. And you can see here you got blue for Saturday, red for Sunday, and then you do have some different characters. I'm not really sure what language that is. Someone let me know in the comments, but Yeah, different language there. I do like the fact that it has red and blue there as well. So that's nice to see. Pulling it out to the third position hacks the movement. This is where you set your time. It works just like any other NH35 or NH36 movement would. Everything functions as it should. Push it in, starts up the second hand. The hands don't jump, nothing like that. So overall, pretty satisfied with the movement in this thing. The screw in, screw out action is just really nice and smooth. It is one of those crowns where you are winding the movement while you're screwing it in. So just something to note, not a negative or anything like that, just something to note. But overall, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the movement in this thing. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. So the bracelet is going to be one of those things where you really have to make a tough decision. I think it looks pretty good on the bracelet. It doesn't add too much weight. I think the bracelet is actually pretty decent. Obviously, it does have a couple faults, which we'll talk about here in a second. But it adds about $30 to the price. So I'm going to leave that up to you, whether you think it's worth that extra money or not. So yeah, let's get into the bracelet here. So the bracelet is 3 solid titanium links here. You have push pins for adjusting. Everything is pretty smooth and pretty flowing. I've got no issues with the comfort of this band. It's 20 millimeters, it's 22 millimeters, and it tapers down to 20 millimeters at the clasp. You can see the tolerances aren't too bad. So yeah, there's a little bit of flex here. It doesn't really jangle on the wrist or anything like that, which I like to see. You do have solid end links, and they are male end links. So like I said, it's 50, almost 55, I think, with the protruding end links. So that's going to be a big deal for a lot of people. Someone with smaller wrists, they're not going to be able to wear this thing very comfortably, in my opinion. You can see here on this side over here, the end link fitment fits pretty good in there. On this side here, it's raised up a little bit. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I can't really force it into position. It's the same thing on this side here. This side over here, it's nice and flush. It looks good. The end link fitment itself, it's nice and tight in here. There's a little bit of side-to-side play, but it's very minimal. And again, it doesn't really translate to rattling on the wrist or anything like that. So I don't think that should be a deal breaker for you. The finishing on the bracelet matches really nicely with the case as well. I've got no issues with that. One nice thing about this bracelet, and I think more OEMs need to get on this, is quick release spring bars for the bracelet. So it takes all of 2 seconds to get this bracelet off, which is amazing. I absolutely love that feature. So yeah, really happy with that. And again, while I'm in here, there's those 2 holes there that I mentioned in my outdoor shots. So yeah, it's just something to note that they did put in there. I don't like the placement of them, but they're there. Just a little bit of extra attention to detail. But yeah, I think the bracelet itself, for the most part, is fine. The clasp itself, again, fully titanium, pressed outers, pressed inners. Not a big fan of these, but I mean, for this price, it's kind of what I expected. Yeah, these pressed shells, nobody likes them, but they're comfortable and they're thin. So I've got no major complaints with it. Obviously, I'd like to see milled, but really these things, the tolerances on these things is usually what the problem is. This one is not too bad. I'm not able to really kind of get it off center and not get it latched. This thing latches and unlatches every time. So functionally, it's perfectly acceptable in my opinion. It does have the Boderry branding on the clasp here. You got 3 levels of micro adjust. Everything is nice and rounded and smoothed. And again, it's all very comfortable and very functional. I removed 2 links for my 7.5 inch wrist. So you got up to about an 8 inch wrist and you should be able to fit this thing just fine. So yeah, I think the big drawback to this is the male end links. I also don't really like the 22 millimeter lug width. I think on this 40 millimeter watch, it should be 20 millimeters. It just looks a little too broad for me, in my opinion. That's just me though. I know some people like that, some people don't like it. But yeah, that's something you can't change. What you can change is whether you get this on the bracelet or you can save $30 and get it on a nylon strap. Yeah, I think, I don't know. It's a tough one for me. I think anyone with smaller wrists should probably pass it up. Anyone with bigger wrists that can pull off that lug to lug or that end link to end link, I think you should really consider the bracelet. It's not a great bracelet, but it's not a bad bracelet at all. So, and I do think it looks pretty good on this one. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the bracelet. All right, guys, there it is. That's the Boderry Voyager version 2 NH35 or NH36 movement now. You're getting a really sweet field watch, titanium. I'm not a huge fan of titanium when it comes to dive watches. I've figured that out. But when it comes to field watches, there's just something about it that I really like titanium field watches. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with this watch. I think it looks great. It's a pretty cool style. I think the dial is really interesting as well. Lots going on here. I think they could clean that up a little bit. But really, the only negatives I see of this are the protruding male end links, which, you know, whether you get the bracelet or not, could be a non-issue. And then the Lume. The Lume is not great. No anti-reflective coating. I can live with no AR coating. But on a field watch like this that I plan on using, I go camping with my field watches. I rely on them every night for the time. So yeah, it's something that I'm a little bit disappointed. And such a nice watch overall, but then they skimped out on the Lume. So yeah, a little bit disappointing in that. Other than that, though, I think it's a great watch, and it's definitely one that you should consider. I think that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.